Yes. So, Katie, why don't you introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about what you do and your art and just a little intro, and then you can just do your thing.
Oh, well, actually, let Ryan go first since he's giving you guys a tour and stuff tomorrow.
Well, if you don't mind, because I'm really a spectator today, but I wanted to thank all of you for joining us today. My name is Ryan Wilcox. I manage Groundworks, which is the media lab on the first floor of the Duderstadt Center, and I'm hoping to see several of you tomorrow because we're going to do a tour at 4 o'clock. Of a lot of the resources we have available there, and if you're not familiar with the Duderstadt Center and what we have, you should make it a part of your regular schedule because some of the stuff that Katie will be showing you tonight, we have the capability of doing. We have 4 Wacom tablets just in Groundworks all by itself. This actually started as how do we do a Wacom demonstration for you, and it's tough in Groundworks in front of a single computer. And then it turned into, well, I just so happen to be married to this person who has been working in comic books for the last 16 or 17 years now, and she's got quite a set of credentials under her belt. And in fact, she has done demos for the Wacom company at places like San Diego Comic-Con and stuff. So I just wanted to thank you for being there. I'm really going to just sit back and be a spectator, or if you guys are too shy to ask questions along the way, I might try to play some peanut gallery stuff. But otherwise, thank you for that. I'm going to hand you over to Katie, my wonderful wife and wonderful comic illustrator and creator and writer.
Hi guys. Yep, my name is Katie Cook, and I have been a professional illustrator for over 15 years at this point. I actually I do have a degree. I have a BFA in illustration, and then I worked in a studio creating artwork for like paper and stationery goods for like Target and stuff like that for about 5 years. And then I always did comics on the side. And eventually comics became my full-time everything. And from that stemmed getting work for Disney. I have now written Star Wars projects. I've drawn several Star Wars children's books. I pulled up some of the files for those. I have done stuff for Marvel, both written and drawn it. I created a character for the Spider-Verse. I've written and drawn the Avengers. So just basically all of this stuff. And then I've also worked on Frozen. I've worked on Tangled. I've worked on the Tinkerbell Neverland Fairies. And oh my God, what else? Fraggle Rock. I've worked on Fraggle Rock. And just so many other licenses from my childhood that I really love. And then besides that, I also had my own webcomic for a while. That the first one was Gronk. And then I got headhunted away from a 5-year plus project I was doing, which is I was the lead writer for My Little Pony Friendship is Magic for all of their tie-in books and their comic books. I even got to create a character. I was a character on the show. Which was her name is Bittersweet. She is in the episode Princess Spike initially. She's the representative from Detroit. And then they put her in all the video games, and then you can see her in the background after that, which was really great. That was really a nice surprise. And like I said, I got headhunted away from My Little Pony by a company called Webtoon. And Webtoon offered me the opportunity and said, we will give you money to make whatever you want.
Oh.
And like, they didn't give me an editor. They didn't, give me any notes. So I just turned in what I wanted for basically 5 years, and it's ongoing. And recently it was purchased by 10 Speed, which is an imprint of Penguin Random House. And I got a 4-book publishing deal through them. And the first book is actually due at the beginning of April. And we're going to go ahead and publish 4 books, and with a potential for more. And that's been crazy. So, and I do all of that right now on this Wacom 27 HD that sits in my office right now. So that's it. That's my life. Except I'm also married to that guy with the beard. We have 2 kids. I deal with that at the same time.
We have 5
Um,
cats.
We have 5 cats. You are going to see them wandering around in the background. I guess I also have another independent project coming up with IDW that I can't really talk about, that I'm the writer of. That's more of an adult story that's really fun. But yeah, it's if you can name a company in this industry, I've worked for them. So
Yeah. So, Katie, if you don't mind, why don't we go ahead and start with, I mean, because we were originally talking about this with some use of like Photoshop and your Cintiq and stuff like that. Why don't you jump into a share screen and maybe just kind of show, I don't know,
okay.
and Sophia, help guide us on this. Katie is very, very organized with the way that she manages all of her layers. She does use
Yeah.
custom brushes and stuff like that. So, Katie, why don't you just kind of walk through the
Yep.
interface that you've got in your setup, and then she can certainly show a few things here and there. You can talk about when you do work on paper, and because
I
sometimes
do. I do
sometimes
work on paper.
sometimes pencil and inks on paper, and then scanning them into the Cintiq for colors and things like that. Actually, I'm going to throw this in really quick. Even if you're a completely digital artist, sometimes it's really, really good to do your pencils and inks traditionally, because then you can sell the originals as well as selling your online digital version of the comic.
Well, that and it's some of the stuff I've done stuff for the Disney Wonderground Gallery in the parks, and that stuff is almost exclusively watercolor because they like to have the original so they can sell it in the gallery. And I was trained as a traditional illustrator. We didn't do a lot of digital when I was in college. That's a back in the day talk, and that makes me feel old. But yeah, it was very recent that I went mostly digital. So let's see if I can go to desktop 2. Does that
Yep, there we go.
share? All right. Am I still visible?
We can see you in the window off to the side.
Gross.
So,
Okay, you're
so
gonna see.
we'll see your profile.
You will see me in profile. So I pulled up a couple of different files. This is a page from Star Wars, the Treasury, and it's got a lot of weird little things because I thought it would be interesting to see the fact that, sometimes you're going for what we call a vignette illustration. So I got like a very small area that I needed to work with. And this one's kind of funny because it's not as well labeled as all of my other ones usually are. Usually you see like light spatter, dark spatter, color hold layer, this. But sometimes with licensing, you got to work fast. So it gets a little weird. So yeah, but it's just this thing of like building textures, because the second I start taking away all of this stuff, I'll leave the inks on for right now, but took away the glow, take away the texture, take away the background gradient, take away that, take away that, take away that. Now you can see just all the shadow stuff that I kind of stuck in there and covered up. And there you go. That was just the inks and the flats right there. And then the second that I started adding in all of this other stuff, it completely changes everything. Because that right there was the illustration. And somewhere in here are probably the pencils, but it might be in another file. But I know I can do that with one of these other ones. Let me see. Here we go. This is a one from Nothing Special, which is the project that I do with Webtoon. Like, these are the pencils right here. Like, that's all that illustration was. I can probably zoom in on it. And then all of a sudden, I just went in with one of the Photoshop brushes. I have a few that I found that I really like. And you just build that up directly from there. And I don't know if I ever colored this piece. I might have, but yeah, it's, like I said, building stuff up. But do you want to see more of like building up files, or their questions, or their like, what am I doing?
Well, Katie, I'm gonna, and maybe this is something that me and with my I'm not ignorant to the topics, but I don't know what Katie's process is necessarily. But we talk about not only the labeling of all the layers and stuff, but obviously working multiple layers is probably a huge advantage like this, because you can play a little bit with different shading types for
Yes.
each sort of thing, as opposed to trying to combine multiple stroke types on a single layer. How does that?
Yeah,
Is that a reasonable thing to talk about?
yes, that's why I actually pulled up this one, because it was kind of experimental. Excuse the body pillow in it. It's a part of the comic. It's funny, I swear. Because I was playing around with new Photoshop brushes with all this tree stuff right here. And it's because I normally wouldn't use something so painterly as a main effect. And then I actually use some of it in this one too, with the grass, like down at the bottom. And I would always put that on a new layer to see if it worked or not. And that way you can also play around with multiply and, all the different effects on the layer. The greatest gift that the computer has ever given an artist is the undo button. And it is something that I truly miss when I work over there, which is where my drafting table is. Because like I said, I do still work traditionally as well, especially at conventions. If I do like a commission for someone, it's always watercolor. And the fact that you still try and go for that button when you mess up a line or you mess something up, and it was like, dang it. God. But right now it's I primarily work in Photoshop right now. I actually really prefer Photoshop. I think you can get, like I said, a lot more painterly in it. Clip Studio Paint tends to be a little static, but I know people that really love it because you can bring in like 3D models of backgrounds and things like that to really cut down on your time. That is not how I work. I prefer the process to take way too much time. I put in lots of details in my backgrounds, and something that's as static as a 3D model doesn't match my artwork. So I tend to not use stuff like that, but I will never, pardon my French, poo-poo on somebody that prefers to do their backgrounds that way. We call them canned backgrounds. And you can actually purchase them from different sites. I read a lot of manga, and you can actually tell when someone is basically using the same background pack for like every schoolroom looks the same, every school looks the same, but that way they can focus on the character artwork and things like that.
But still, you've also used Photoshop for so long. It's like a Mac versus a Windows thing. Is that using Clip Studio Paint and stuff is just not what you're used to. And
yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah, ultimately you are saying that lots of people do really, really competent work. And
yeah,
and if you are not interested in paying the subscription price to Adobe, which we all love and hate at the same time because of how good it is and how it rules the industry, but man, is it expensive once you're out of the university. Why do you think I work at the university?
And there are a lot of alternatives to all the programs, alternatives to Photoshop, alternatives to Illustrator, even alternatives to Clip Studio Paint out there. The benefit I know with a lot of people, Clip Studio Paint has an iPad version. So you can actually use it on your iPad Pro. Photoshop has it, but I like the big surface. So I really haven't gotten super into it, but I do know people that use it. And other than that, I know a lot of people that create their comics in Procreate. And I mean, they do amazing work in Procreate.
Yeah,
And I've done a lot of sketches for projects in it that I don't do the finals, but I'll just send it over to my computer later on. A lot of the stuff, has anyone heard of the card game Munchkin? I do a lot of work for the Steve Jackson Company. So I've actually illustrated probably about 8 sets so far. And I'm doing another one right now. And if I'm sitting up on the couch, or the last time it was we were on a plane, I think to Portland, and I was knocking out some pencil sketches for them to look at, and then I'll just send that right over on the cloud to my machine when I get home and ink them up. So it's amazing. Or sometimes if I work on paper, I'll take just a photo on my phone and send it over to my computer and then just ink it digitally.
Oh, the tools we have available to us now.
Mm-hmm. And the cat.
And the cat.
And my cat. That's Nakatomi. Where is she? There you go.
So, is there anything that any of you would have any questions about? This is, we came into this a little casually without like a formal plan.
Yeah,
We knew it was just be talking about this life and working, knowing that you guys were interested in digital art and digital painting and stuff. And so, but what do you want to see? What can we talk about?
I brought up some files in case you had a question about how to do something, but other than that, I'm more than, I want to answer questions about my job or what you guys are interested in, things like that. So, thank you.
Oh, yeah, you guys have to help moderate with the hands and maybe just repeat the question into the mic.
We got a question.
Oh, great.
Is this working?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Cool. So my name is Min. I am an artist who is trying to bridge that gap between traditional and digital. And as somebody who's done that kind of thing with, like, I don't know, pencils and then inking it digitally, and then going into Procreate and then adding in, like, I don't know, halftones or duplicating stuff that I thought was wonky or finishing it in post. Do you have anything specific that makes you decide to do a page digitally or like do some of it traditionally and do it digitally? Like, what do you?
My baseline of if I'm going to ink a page traditionally is, can I sell it afterwards? Which is a really shallow answer. Like anything I do for Spider-Man, I'm like, want to sell it to a nerd, and it works. But other than that, it's just the speed of things. Before I started working for Webtoon, almost everything I did, I inked traditionally. And then the speed of it was not going to happen because Webtoon, you have to produce like 30 panels a week.
Oh, wow.
And think of that in terms of pencils, inks, colors, lettering, and formatting. And that's the base. With season 3, we were getting into some that were 80 panels a week. And I actually brought in people. My colorist lives in Malaysia. They have a studio out there that colors like the Transformer comics and the Godzilla comics and stuff that could keep up with that kind of stuff. Normally I color everything by myself like I do with Star Wars and smaller projects, but nothing special turned into a beast. And then I also had a letterer that I had to deal with. So the speed of how much I could put out, for the panels turned into this whole thing of that I had to start working digitally. And it is very much, you can tell at the beginning of the comic that it's the first time I was kind of working in that spectrum. And then it gets insane 5 years later. You know, there's a roughness to the beginning of it, because I also had been basically the writer for My Little Pony for 5 years. You know, I wasn't drawing as much, and then all of a sudden I got a opportunity. A guy named Tom Akel, who at the time had been editor-in-chief of Webtoon, said, "Why are you writing? You're an artist." And he pulled me back in. And based on Webtoon's schedule is when I decided to go full digital for those comics. And then it turns out I really love working digitally again because of that undo button. And just the ease of working as a team. You know, I can send everybody the files. And in licensing, when they're like, can you tweak this thing here? Can you move this X-wing just a tad over here? Instead of changing a whole painting, I just go in Photoshop and I can click a button and go boop, boop, boop.
Drag and drop.
Yeah.
And I do want to also just mention that Katie does make time to do projects for herself that is working traditionally. This piece that she had mentioned earlier from the Wonderground Gallery, she just kind of really wanted to do a hardcore, I can't go back if I screw it up, watercolor piece. And what was it? It wasn't 24 by 36.
It was huge.
How big was it? But
it was over 2 feet tall and just over 3 feet wide.
Yeah. And usually I do.
You can see it online.
It's the entire Haunted Mansion ride from the top down. It is accurate and has every ghost visible in the ride in the piece. And
that was
and she did it just because she'd been working digitally I was like, I just need to do a piece, that I can just do to get back to my roots of working traditionally like this.
And I did it for fun originally, and then since I've worked for Disney, somebody basically on my Facebook page saw it and went, "We're gonna buy it." And then most recently, it's actually sitting behind me. I did a for fun piece that was Bugs Bunny's What's Opera Doc. That's all watercolor. That I was just like, I just want to paint something today.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah, so it becomes an efficiency. And what is it, Katie? The scritch of the paper.
Yeah, I went to the College for Creative Studies in Detroit.
Oh no!
Yeah, and one of my instructors there, who was my basic drawing instructor, always called it the na 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 of the paper. And it was like he can't not want that texture and that noise and that feel. And I get that every once in a while. And I know some digital people who put like a big protector over their iPad or their Wacom. But all that does is give you the feeling of paper and wear down your nib faster. And then you have to spend another $16 on 4 nibs for your stylus.
This is true. There is nothing better than the scritch, especially with like a
yeah. So, and I have a lot of paper. Ryan knows this. I did one of the cover art pieces for Strathmore for Comic Board, and they sent us a pallet of Bristol board.
Yeah, we literally a truck pulling into our driveway with 500 pounds of paper on it.
And 10 years later, we still haven't used all of it. It is just everywhere. Like, we would start using it as Kingling at this point. It is.
I have the original print ad that they made. It's a 8.5 by 11 print fold out print ad with Katie on it, talking about her line of paper with Strathmore. Yeah. If you want, I've got it in Groundworks. If you want to come by and visit.
And then a friend of mine who's also a Michigan comic book artist, David Peterson, who does Mouse Guard, did the other one. He did the one for the thicker paper. But that's another thing that's really cool about this job, is that I get to talk to a lot of other comic book artists. So
100%. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And so, and yeah, the back and forth is great. If you have more questions or if anyone else has any questions, lay them on us.
Yeah, this is what I'm good at. I mean, I can't talk about my job, kind of. Ryan's better at it, but.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to make sure. Hi. First of all, I just want to say huge fan of your webcomics. Oh my god.
Ah, thank you.
So related to that, I just wanted to ask, one, what inspired you to come, how did this comic come to be? Basically, what inspired you to write it? And what does your process look like? Like, do you draw on Photoshop? Like, do you sketch out traditionally first?
Oh, yeah. As far as Nothing Special goes, when they approached me and said you can make any comic you want, I decided to make the comic that I wanted when I was 12 years old and didn't have. You know, a lot of this content that we have now didn't exist when I was a middle schooler. You know, I was really picked on for loving comics, loving manga, loving anime, you know, playing Magic the Gathering in the lunchroom in the mornings. And thankfully, that's not a precedent now. People love all of this stuff. But for me, when I was, 12 years old, what I wanted didn't exist. So I wrote Nothing Special as this is what I wanted to read while I was sitting in the hallway waiting for class to start, like tucked into the alcove of the sixth grade door. And I wanted a high fantasy adventure with comedy and a hint of romance and all of this other stuff that I loved. And I wanted it to be really weird. Because the thing that I love most is to write things that are funny and charming and sweet and ridiculous. So that's what I did. And all of a sudden, I mean, it blew up. We've got 500,000 subscribers. And like I said, it was a lot of top picks. It was nominated for Best Comic at the Ringo Awards, a show that I've also gave the keynote speech at a few years ago about the future of the industry and how digital comics are really taking a precedence over some other stuff and need to be considered real comics in the industry now. And that actually changed their categories the next year. So they were accepting web comics in all of the other generic categories, like best lettering, like best coloring, and things like that. And I also did a similar thing for the American Library Association about the future of digital comics and reading with kids on their phone. I'm a big supporter of that. And making Nothing Special and working in that new digital format of the scroll really opened my eyes to a different way of making things. So it's you can teach an old lady new tricks.
Well, but Katie, she's also asking about like your process for getting the story all put together. Do you have the notebook in arm's reach?
Oh my God.
So
yes.
Katie has a printed out version of the script that she thumbnails and makes changes to and reads over and over and over again for months. And so the entire story is done before she begins writing a single page, which a lot of the
just photographing it.
Yeah,
for the back of the book. So, all right.
Because I will say the dialogue in the comic is super well thought out and amazing. And
thank you. It is.
I had to find out, and that's
yeah. So this is season 1. This is the binder. I write out the entire thing before I start, which is terrifying, and terrifies a lot of young people.
A lot of people go week to week, but
then they lose track of their story. How many people have stopped reading a webcomic because it gets boring and it loses its track?
Yeah.
Okay, mine is planned out from start to finish. And I mentioned I worked for a stationery company once, so I'm a big fan of Post-it notes. So all of this is 100% marked, and it's by chapter, and it has script notes in it if I go ahead and change it for the letterer later and things like that. And I drove Nate crazy. And in this corner,
Nate is Katie's letterer.
Yeah. Half of the thumbnails for 1 and 2. Issue 3 is in a different, or the orange ones, they're in a different pile. Like I said, we're photographing everything to do like a
Hey,
a
Katie,
back of the
stop sharing your screen for a second, and your image will be bigger on the screen, and they'll be able to
I'm
see the whole.
sorry.
I'm sorry, none of us are paying attention. That's my fault too. There, now
So,
maybe you'll be
okay,
a little
yeah.
bigger.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, these
The
are
notebooks.
the thumbnails for, actually, no, these are just season 2.
Are they?
Yeah, this is just season 2. These are just the thumbnails. This isn't the script. We call them the Bibles. So there's the season 2 script Bible, which, you know, is another one of those big binders. That's the script, with all the notes, all the issues. And then we have all of these notebooks that I would always just take around with me when I was at conventions or out and about around town, and write down what my panels were going to be like and things like that. Or I'd look at the story and say, I need to add something else here because the pacing's weird. I got to take this out. And it just gave me a visual to work off of while I did it. So, but so Ryan has to be married to somebody that does stuff like this. So really, when you see him, feel sorry for him. There's a lot of post-it notes in his life.
Well, and by the way, so you it is in all of the presentation slides that we use hiring new student staff members in Groundworks, that Ryan will not shut up about Katie can draw. You'll just have to get used to it. Well, quite frankly, a lot of so I have a large based media background. Then while Katie's putting stuff away, I have a media background, and I thought by this point in my life I'd be a filmmaker, but I actually really love what I do with the dude, and so we're both kind of storytellers, and I do feel that I can help, at least when she's struggling with an idea, at least send her 5 or 6 things, so that way she knows which 5 or 6 ideas not to use. And stuff before she develops whatever works best for her. But whenever I see people working on the Wacom tablets and stuff in Groundworks, I walk up and introduce myself, and if they're working on comic style things, I'm a good resource to talk about this business and this industry. I'm not Katie directly, but we've been doing this side by side her whole career as an artist. So I've just been watching it all take place. So any other questions?
And most comic book artists like Ryan more than me anyway. It's a whole thing at conventions. It was like, is Ryan here? And it was like,
someone's got to shake the moneymaker at the booth.
Ugh. You haven't lived until you've seen Mike McNeola ask where Ryan is.
No kidding.
So that's we're sorry for all the name dropping and stuff, but it's part of the business. But Mike Mignola's daughter was a huge fan of Katie's, so we got to know them pretty well because of his daughter. Yeah.
And that's another thing, is that, you know, I get to meet all of these people that were my heroes when I was a kid. Someone who's become a really good friend is Stan Sakai. I don't know if any of you know him. He does a comic that was called Usagi Jimbo. And I loved it when I was a kid. And all of a sudden, I know him. It's like he invited me to like use his beach house. I did a draw off against Sergio Aragones. If none of you know who he is, think of Mad Magazine. He's the one who does all the cartoons that are in the margins. They're all the little doodles. He also did Gru the Wanderer and things like that. So I've gotten to meet amazing people in my industry and either hang out with them or talk to them, you know, have drinks, have dinner. You know, Ryan came with me to the Lucasfilm offices you know, when we were there.
Darn right.
And, yeah, got to have fun, and we poked all the things.
Well,
And
and what's great, after 15 plus years of doing conventions,
Mhm.
the convention itself is exhausting. It's a lot of work.
Mhm.
But it is so worth it to have different friends in different cities with different restaurants that you can get together in a group and have dinner
Mhm.
after the show, after a single night, and just talk shop or not talk shop. And it's
No,
always
you talk shop so you can put it on the business card. Yeah,
oh yeah, that
that's
was right. You talk shop and it's a
pro
tax
tip.
tax write-off.
Pro tip. It's tax write-off if you talk comics for at least 30 seconds.
And so, but just being able to do that, and someone's always bringing along an extra person that you didn't get to know before, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's really, really great, and sometimes you get some weirdos out there, but those give you great
Yeah.
stories to go to move forward with. And so we've got, I mean, it's just a really
Yeah,
crazy world.
we've had some weird moments of either creators, actors, or just people in film that have been like, what the heck just happened? So, like, so it's been a blast, and it's all because of comics. And I've gotten to travel the world because of my job. You know, I spent 2 weeks in Australia, you know, just kind of bouncing around. We've been to London a couple times. We were supposed to go to Denmark, and then COVID happened. Thanks, COVID. But there have been years where I've gone to 17 cities, just to do book signings and stuff like that. And it's fun. And I get to see lots of people. I get to see lots of weird things. You get lots of weird behind the scenes looks at museums and stuff like that. And they let you touch all their stuff, which is fun.
Well, and similarly, and you know, it is. We are very, very happy with
Mhm.
the life that Katie has allowed for us as far as
Well,
all
that
the
and it's all
travel and
because
the
of artwork,
and
you
storytelling
know,
and
and
stuff. But this
yeah.
is an important venture because we just
Mhm.
love the stories that get created out there and are
Mhm.
supportive of that.
Yeah,
I
nerd.
can't emphasize enough how hard Katie has to work all day, every day to
Mhm.
maintain, you know, especially in this day and age when you're a freelancer, that means you're spending almost as much time promoting your stuff on social media and or
Mhm.
at least making it known that you are still out there on social
Mhm.
media while doing the artwork
Yeah, it is.
to stay a level of relevancy and stuff.
That's a great point, is that I got my first job with Star Wars because of a piece that I posted on DeviantArt. That was of Yoda knitting with lightsabers. And it said "Home Sweet It Is" on a little sign in the background, and it was a watercolor piece. And this was back before Disney purchased the Star Wars license, and Star Wars was actually kind of a dying thing back then. It was just the prequels and nothing else had happened. And they contacted me, and I ended up doing a webcomic for StarWars.com. Like, that was on their blog. That was just this little cutesy, like, Star Wars jokes thing for a while. And then I worked on a webcomic for them at the same time that was a companion for each of the Clone Wars episodes for the original Clone Wars. So they would have me like do like 4 or 5 pages after each episode, that went along with the Clone Wars. That was just a little extension of the story.
Yeah, like
And that all
like
came,
a cutscene.
yeah, yeah, and that all came from this one little weird post on DeviantArt, and I've been working with them for over 10 years now, even past the Disney purchase. And I know that the artist Kevin Wada, if you're familiar with him, he was discovered through Tumblr, and now he does all of these beautiful covers for not only Marvel but a lot of other publishing companies. Same thing, I believe Afua Richardson got a lot of her work through, you know, all of her postings. And now, I mean, she's a badass. Oh my God. Her work's beautiful. And there's a lot of people that were discovered. CB Cebulski, who used to be the talent guy at Marvel that like discovered new people and interviewed people at conventions, admitted that he would go to a lot of social media to find people. to be like, no, I was going through Tumblr and I found this new guy who we're going to give a cover. So you got to put yourself out there. The first time I did a portfolio review at a convention, I was told I would never make it in this industry because my work was too cute and sweet and lovely and wonderful and la 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 la, too cutesy schmootsy. And now whenever I see that same editor at a convention, I like to point out that I didn't have to pay for my plane ticket. So
Yeah.
so suck it, Scott.
What else do you guys have? Any other questions?
Oh, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, what does your like day-to-day schedule look like? And like, when do you work on like your webcomic? When do you work on like other illustration stuff? And like, kind of like your schedule and your routine and how you like balance all of that?
It really depends day to day. I try and kind of take Monday as a paperwork day, which is my least favorite day. Because that's like invoicing or reading a contract or doing this if I have to. Ryan had to deal with that earlier this week. Ryan actually brought up a really great point for a recent contract because one of the board game companies I do stuff with has started doing digital versions of everything. And they were using artwork from one of the other artists. And Ryan was like, oh, is that in your contract? I was like, no. And then I brought it up, and apparently Ryan caused a rift at a company. Oh my God. There were like 70 emails because of one offhand comment that Ryan made before he left for work.
Well, the point of this is
you made my day very hard. That's the point of it.
If a licensing company is paying you for something for, a on-print card game, then my question to Katie was originally, is this appropriate to even bring this up? But do you relicense out your own artwork to them for different types of releases? A t-shirt company gets a graphic to put on a t-shirt, but then you see it on towels and hats and shoes and other things and plates and mugs, but you didn't agree to all that. So that's where the idea of this talk is multiple instances.
Well, we dealt with that. I did a cover for Deadpool, and then all of a sudden I was in a GameStop and I saw it on a t-shirt and I was like, wait a minute. Nah, I guess Disney owns it. I don't care. But it was like, oh, I didn't know. What? No one told me this. Happened with Star Wars too. Every once in a while I see it pop up on a t-shirt in the kids department. And I was like, oh, cool. Would have liked to have gotten one. But yeah, so normally if it's a normal work day, I wake up, we get our kids off to school. I spend an hour zoning out on the couch. Lately it was, I would watch the new Last of Us, or I will watch Top Chef, or I will do something that has absolutely nothing to do with my job for one solid hour. I want my cat in my lap. I want the TV on. And then after Ryan leaves, that's like my signal. It's like the bat signal of like, well, I got to go to work now. If Ryan's going to work, I got to go to work. Because my commute is so terrible. My commute is down the stairs into the basement. Because our entire walkout basement is my office. I'm very fortunate that I can keep all my nerd crap down here. But then I just sit at my computer and then I figure out what I'm going to do. And I have a Google Calendar that I actually can't show because it's got some NDA stuff on it. Otherwise, I'd bring it up. That is basically separating my day by color of what I'm going to work on that day, of like what needs to get done. And it's like, I know I need an hour and a half to work on this cover. So I'm going to block off this amount of time to work on that. And then it's like, I need at least 30 minutes to go upstairs and open and shut the fridge 15 times thinking I want to eat something, but I'm not gonna. So I had that blocked off at my lunch. And then I come back down and it was like, if the cover's not done, then that's got to be allocated like with another thing, or I move on to the next thing. It was like, now I got to get this done today. Especially with the book coming out, I know that it was like, I need 2 hours to look over the PDFs, look at the editor's notes, adjust any of the final TIFFs, because all of that is going to print on April 3rd. And, you know, right now, my entire day tomorrow is a meeting, working on a cover, you know, for the book and all of this other stuff. And, you know, that's just it. It was like, I work on what I have to work on. I figure out how much time it's going to take. And I know that now from years of doing this, I can look at a project and say, this is going to take me 2 hours. This is going to take me 3 hours. This is going to take me 4 days. And because I have a new Munchkin set that I have to work on, and I know that's going to take me at least 4 days to draw 80 cards. And then I put on an audiobook. And that's it.
Well, and I want to reemphasize Katie's, you know, early on when Katie had the Photoshop files up and stuff, she was saying, you know, getting lost in all the detail work and all the different layers and poking at stuff and tweaking it a little bit here and a little bit there. And the way that she manages her time is the counterpoint to that. And it's wonderful because you can, you know, you're artists, you know, you're always judging, you know, how does this stroke look? How does this look? Is it the right thing? No, let me do it again. But if you give yourself a deadline, I need to move on to the next thing because I've got to get these three things done today, then you speed up a little bit and you work a little bit more efficiently and you meet your deadline. And if you don't get it within, you know, a 15-minute, 20-minute window, then you need to know for next time around that it takes you more time to do that and block off an appropriate amount of time, or restrict your timelines to make you focus and work harder during that.
Well, and then the big motivator of, you're going to get a text from your editor asking where something is, and then you are going to cry a little bit inside. And then you're going to lie and tell them it's coming. And then you're going to get it done.
My internet's down, but you're talking to me on a mobile.
Yeah. It was like, oh no, I can't get into Dropbox. I can get into Dropbox. Well,
I see you there in the folder, Katie.
yeah, it's like, well, la-di-da for you. They know, it's like working with a parent. They know all the tricks. They know exactly what lie you're going to tell. It's terrible.
Yeah, your parents knew everything you were doing the whole time. Can you believe it?
Yeah. Yep.
That's what I've learned being a parent. My parents knew everything.
Oh, thanks so much.
Oh, you're very, very welcome.
Yeah.
We're getting up on time here, so I know you. I don't know if there's any more questions, we are happy to answer them, but we don't want to keep anyone. It's late.
Yeah, we have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, dig in.
Hi, I'm AJ. So I was wondering about how was your transition from like completing like your degree to then like going into the industry? Like, how did that go for you? And like, do you have any like tips or advice on that?
Really, mine was, you know, while I was at school, I was doing projects of my own and just kind of having fun being a like I want to be a cartoonist, yay! And then immediately out of college, I got a job as a graphic designer doing mostly stuff in Illustrator that was really boring. Like I designed a lot of stickers. Like I said, it was mostly like stationery stuff and scrapbooking, which used to be a thing. So I have designed a lot of It's a Girl stickers so people could make their own invitations. And it was all in Illustrator, which I completely faked knowing on my resume. When I like left college, I was like, yeah, totally, I can do that and that. And I really botched a few things. That's a much longer story on my first week. But yeah, so I had this job for 5 years, being a graphic designer at this company, and I ended up working on licenses like Crayola and Build-A-Bear and Disney, developing craft projects and stickers and stationery and all this other stuff. and I learned about how to put together licensing packets. And, you know, I made a couple of really lifelong friends there. And then one day I told Ryan, I was like, I think I'm making more on the side and I could make more from the comics that I've been doing. You know, because I was doing Gronk, and then at that point I had started working on Fraggle Rock, and we were doing conventions and selling stuff. And I had just been doing the Star Wars, I think StarWars.com on the side. And then I had started doing work for Ashley Exton for her universe, her clothing line, when it started up. And I was like, I think I'm going to quit my job. And
fortunately, well, fortunately at that time, Katie was pregnant.
Yep. Great time to have a lifetime crisis. It's wonderful. Highly recommend. And Ryan went, okay. And I went in and I turned in my notice, and my boss had a complete and utter mental breakdown because apparently I was carrying a lot of people. And then I basically took the 2 weeks of vacation I hadn't left, like that day. And I never went back.
And I know as we're kind of coming up on time, real quick also, Katie has been on panel discussions where it's like, how do you know when it's time to leave your studio job to become a freelance artist? And I mean, we say it as a joke all the time, but you need to have a partner with good health insurance, like someone who works at the University of Michigan.
Yeah, wherever he is.
Sort of scenario. And that was knowing that we had that base covered.
Yeah.
Katie was able to take this, venture out. And Katie, Katie is by far the breadwinner of this family. I just have the health insurance, which is great for us. But it's a really, really great balance between us, because in a pinch, I could pay the bills for a while if I had to, but it wouldn't be easy for us. But Katie, it's all the convention work. So we it's team. Well, we say Team Wilcox, but it's Team Cook Wilcox.
Well, I tell everybody that Ryan is my sugar baby.
Baby, sugar daddy?
No.
Oh, but no, baby. I'm a sugar baby.
No, you're the baby because I take care of you.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh. All right. So what else? Was that helpful as far as the answering your question, AJ?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so we're getting kind of close to time, but thank you guys so much for I don't know, this talk and showing us your art and kind of like just answering all the questions we had. We really appreciate you coming here.
Yeah, it's 100% possible to make this your job and your career. It's some people will say that it's kind of a pipe dream, and it's not. My parents were 100% supportive when I said I want to be a cartoonist. And they were like, okay, mostly because my brother has a degree in philosophy from the exact same university that you're sitting in. So it's not that. So, but no, it's possible. I've made it my job. I know tons of people who this is their job and this is their career. And it's their livelihood. And some of them, it's been their livelihood for 30, 40 years. So.
Yeah. And then real quick, I'm just going to pitch myself one more time. This all started with the idea of getting a tour of the Duderstadt Center and seeing some of the resources there. So tomorrow at 4:00, you all know this. Is that all right? I'm sorry. I never stop. I'm just a great big spokesperson for the dude. I love what we do there. It's fun. So I will plan on seeing you tomorrow, and not only just show you Groundworks, but show you all the things that my group does in the building and that you have 24-hour access to. So thanks very much for letting us come today.
Guys, be there.
Yeah,
4:30 at the Dude. Oh, and react in the Discord if you want to go. Yes, do it. Do it right now. And it'll reserve your spot.
All right.
Awesome. Is there a way we can like reach you guys for like further questions or anything?
I'm at Katie Can Draw on everything. Whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook stuff. I don't do the Discord or the Twitch or the young people things. But other than that, I have the same brand across the board. And same thing with my website and everything.
Yeah,
I'm always willing to answer questions about my career. I can be less awkward if you'd like, but I can try.
And you I'm happy to share, Sophia, you're happy to share my unique name at the university. That's an email address for you, but ultimately you could just email me at groundworks@umich.edu, because if I don't immediately have an answer to your question, one of my team can answer that as well. But it's probably Katie you want to talk to.
So we want to talk to both of you guys.
And so,
Yeah, thank you. So guys, remember that katiecandraw.com and on socials and stuff. And also Ryan, the dude guy.
The dude guy.
The
guy
dude
with
guy.
the guy with the bandolier.
Yeah, I wear a bandolier in Groundworks. That's my superhero costume. It makes me easily identifiable throughout the building.
Well, thank you guys both so much. And yes, thank you. And I will see you tomorrow.
Yes, we will. And I will stop the recording and I will ship that. I'll get that up to you and share you the link for you. So you got the recording of this discussion today. All right.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and drop out.
Bye.